Okay, today's guest is a professor of computer science and biophysics at St. Petersburg University of Informational Technologies, Mechanics and Optics in Russia, and a senior researcher at St. Petersburg Research Institute of Physical Activity and Sport. He has published over 400 papers in leading journals on physics and biology, and he holds 15 patents on biophysics inventions. He is the author of 12 books, translated to many European languages. Let's welcome today's guest, Konstantin Korotkov. Welcome, Konstantin.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Very interesting subject myself. I was a physical education teacher for 30 years. And on my particular path, I've come across the world of the spiritual path of the metaphysical world, of understanding what lies beyond what we see and what we just, what's in our environment itself. And obviously many people are on a path over the last few years, more prevalently probably, of trying to find an understanding between the science world itself and understanding the spiritual realm. And you've had many different experiences. I've listened to many of your interviews as you spoke about your own personal path of mountaineering and different types of adventures that lie outside the science world. And so maybe you could just give the audience a background on how you became, first of all, interested in science, and then how you went on the path to the spiritual aspect of life, so to speak.
Okay, so my background is quantum physics. So I graduated St. Petersburg University in quantum physics. And in the beginning, I graduated in 1974. Yes, so it was long ago, very long ago, you see. And I was invited to stay in the university in the Department of Quantum Physics because I graduated with highest marks. And in the beginning, I started doing very classical physics. So I was involved in research on plasma physics and on the problem of direct transformation of heat into electricity. Because you know that all atomic stations, they produce heat, but we need somehow to convert it to electricity. And now we do it with some gases, with vapor, but the efficiency of this process is very, very low. So it was idea to find the way, but it failed. So for many years, many scientists worldwide, first of all in Soviet Union, in the United States, they tried to find the way, but it was impossible somehow. It seems to me there are some rules and regulations of our nature that doesn't allow this. But still, I was involved in very interesting research. I was preparing my PhD, my first PhD. And then at some moment, I met a person. I came to a lecture about different spiritual topics. And it was interesting, but not more than that. And there it was mentioned so-named Kirlian effect. So this is known for more than 2 centuries effect. When we place some subject into electromagnetic field, we can see light around this subject. So it was discovered in 1777, 18th century, by German physicist George Lichtenberg. And then it was many researchers, scientists who was interested in this process. And in particular, it was family Kirlian in Russia, in south of Russia, who found this effect by themselves. And they became very interested. They started doing their own research using their own means. It was in Soviet time, so they didn't have any support from any organizations or government. So they were spending their own efforts, time, money, and they found very interesting effects. So they found that light that we can see from our fingers, from our hands, depends on psycho-emotional state of a person. And this effect attracted a lot of attention worldwide. So it was many research done. And then in 1970s, it was 2 American scientists, Kendall Johnson and who came to to Soviet Union to see what's going on in science. And in particular, they visited Kirlians in their little laboratory. And they published a book later on. The name of the book was Science Behind the Iron Curtain. You know, it was a very famous book because they wrote about many spiritual topics that was very well known in Russia by that time. And so it became known, but then it became question for our Academy of Science, how it is possible. In the world, there are hundreds of papers, published books, but scientists don't understand what does it mean. And it was one of the top level scientists in Russia, academician Devatkov, who came to our university and asked rector, oh, can you study what does it mean? And of course, rector came to head of department, physical department, head of physical department came to the head of quantum laboratory, and head of quantum laboratory came to me because I was the last in the chain. You understand this?
Right.
I was a young scientist without any real background. And by that time, I was involved in study of this Kirlian effect. And I studied this. I came to Moscow, to Lenin's library. I was able to read papers, books, because it was all secret by that time. I had to have special paper from the university. And then I made presentation at the meeting of Academy of Science, where I presented the principle of this effect. And then at some moment, I decided that I need to abandon my previous research line, and I want to dedicate myself to this Kirlian effect. Of course, it was very strange decision, and it was very unexpected for my bosses, but they had to agree because it was under the umbrella of Academy of Science. And in 1982, I made my first PhD thesis, and it was very well done by the physical principles of this Kirlian effect. So, and then I met many interesting people, because you understand, it was 1980s.
Yeah.
It was very strong Soviet system. It was Brezhnev was alive, and he kept a very strong power. So, and of course, it was communist country. Religion was totally forbidden. So it was practically impossible to go to church and to pray there. Only for old people. For young people, you may be expelled from university for this or from your job.
Yeah.
So that's why we all was real communists. We didn't think about God, about anything of this. But I've met many, many interesting people related to this, my study with Kirlian effect. People who was able to change environment, people who was able to influence other people, healers, spiritual healers, spiritual people who was involved in different spiritual activity. Because in Soviet time, it was many people of this kind in Russia, and it was not, it was allowed to make it. So it was quite normal. Because you see, one more topic. In Europe, it was Inquisition all over the Europe, practically. And a lot of people with psyche ability, they were destroyed.
Yeah.
But now we know that all these psyche abilities, those are genetically predisposed. So it's generations of people who have this ability. But in Russia, it was never persecuted. Our church was always very flexible with this. So in Russian villages, it was always old ladies who was able to heal other people, was able to give treatment, and with spiritual efforts. Understand this?
Yeah.
Using different means, different topics. That is why in Russia it was very well known and very popular. So that's why it was very natural for me to meet different people of this kind, to make study. Plus, at some moment, I was invited to be a deputy director of the laboratory, and we had very interesting project, state project, to study telepathy. telepathic communication with submarines and with satellites. You see. So it was very interesting project, and it was, of course, top secret. You understand this? And we had practically unlimited money for this, so we were able to do whatever. And we, for several years, I was involved in this project. So it was very, very interesting as well. And again, I was able to meet, because we was able to select talented people, people who has special spiritual ability, and people who was able to influence not only other people, but sensors. Because from the very beginning, I came to idea that we need to have sensors to measure intentions. And I started developing different types of sensors based on plasma physics, based on laser principles, based on different principles of environmental science. And finally, it was very, very efficient as well. So we did many experiments of this kind. Just now I'm preparing a new book on this topic, and I have planned to have it published somewhere in April. And the name of this book is Magicians of the Quantum Era.
Wow, that's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yes, yes, yes. In this book, I describe different meetings with outstanding people, different experiments, different data. So that's, I hope that for many people it will be interesting. So I hope that in April it will be on Amazon, available from Amazon, this book. Yeah. So you see, this was my path, both scientific and spiritual. But what's important, I am a very classical scientist. So I believe in evidences. And if we claim something, we need to give evidences. I am experimental scientist. So of course we create some ideas with my colleagues, we publish this, but still my main topic, those are experimental science. And if we have some new ideas, I try to test it experimentally in our laboratories using different instrumentations, different means. And this way we can come to some real serious conclusions, and we can prove these conclusions. Because with experiments, if we have it published, then it's a proof. And everybody can reproduce this type of experiments. And so that's why when people tell me that, oh, we don't believe in what you do, I thought, please don't believe. Please take instruments and repeat what we did. Right, and then you will see, is it fake?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how it works.
Yeah, it's very interesting because as I mentioned to you earlier before we got on, I've had my own experiences that put me on the path of going from conventional medicine, so to speak, using conventional medicine, but then shifting towards the more holistic approaches, towards understanding what lies beyond what we see. And I became familiar with the aura itself in doing my own healing work, and interestingly, I have contacts in Russia who I've done healing work for, who had no concept or clue from the little villages of what was going on, based upon their connection to religion in those villages, not having the understanding that you mentioned of always having this connection. People had always a connection to what lies beyond the vision. Was there any personal experiences that you had in your life that made you open up to this world, besides the experimental aspects?
Well, first of all, I was always interested in different philosophy, in religion. I was studying religion and different types of religion, even in Soviet time. And then when all Soviet system crashed, and it was 90s, I started doing my own different experiments. And I was able to organize a set of experiments studying transformation of people from life to death. And I was able to raise some money to organize it in a very interesting way in top, highly professional environment. And then I came to understanding after these experiments that death is not just the end, but it is transition to another life, another state. Now we have more understanding about this. Now we have more data, much more data. But by that time, in the 90s, it was just in the beginning. It was when I did it, when I published it in some journals, some papers, first books. I have made the book about this. So it was very unusual by that time, but it gave me new understanding of reality. And I came to understanding that life is not just simple. It's not what we have in our material life, but it's much more than that. It's many, many different layers of reality that we don't maybe comprehend, but they do exist and we live in this reality.
Yeah. I heard on one of the interviews that you also had some mountaineering experience and some of the interesting things that took place during those encounters. You know, many people that I interview also have near-death experiences where once they experience their near-death experience, they come back with a different understanding of what lies beyond this particular realm. Maybe we can shift a little bit to your BioWell, your GDV camera, the gas discharge visualization, and maybe you could speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think that my main achievement in my life was our BioWell camera, and it's our latest device because this device which allows to study human energy. And you know that in medicine, there are some discussion about energy, but in reality, medicine doesn't use this notion of energy. In biophysics, yes, we have some books about human energy. In sport, we talk a lot about human energy. But I was always interested to make an instrument that would allow to study this. And as I transformed from Kirlian effect, then I got understanding that we need to shift it to modern digital way. And I did it in the beginning of 90s. And we start producing some instruments, but the most important was not just instrument, not the technical device. It is very complicated, and now we have transformed tremendously with our technology. But the main topic, those are processing of data and algorithms. So from the very beginning, I started developing different algorithms. You understand, in the 90s, we had quite simple facilities with our computers. They were quite primitive still, but still I was able to develop one algorithm, another. And finally, with development of our power, computer power, processing power, now we came to very, very powerful system. So with BioWell, first of all, we study human energy. Technically, from physical point of view, we process light coming from fingers in electromagnetic field because we emit light all the time. It was first proven by Professor Gurvich in 1930s. Then it was studies with modern technology, with photocounters, and in Germany, in other countries. But with BioWell, with Kirlian effect, with GDV, we can tremendously increase this light because we use plasma to stimulate this. And by this light, we can get a lot of information. So all our algorithms, they are based on principles of traditional Chinese medicine, traditional Korean medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and we process all the data from light of fingers using these principles. That is why it's one of the obstacles why it's not accepted in modern medicine. Because to accept it, you need to believe in the principle of energy. Yes. You need to believe in the principle of meridians, of energy transfer through the body. And I have no doubt that it's really exists, and it was from ancient times for thousands and thousands of years in ancient China. And we comprehend it in with our software, with the algorithms, and we have data. Now we have no doubts that it is so, because we have more than maybe 500 papers published by top-level researchers in the world, from medical universities, from Russia, from United States, NIH, United States in particular, from France, Germany, Britain. So many scientists, they take our instrument, they check whether it is real or not, and after they see their own proof that they give them data, then they can use it. Of course, it was many attempts to use it for cancer analysis, many attempts. It was papers published with very good, precise analysis with very high probability of good results in different countries as well. But still, I tell that as we are based on these principles of traditional Chinese medicine, that's why it is very poorly accepted in classical medicine, in modern medicine, because most of doctors think that it's all rubbish. They don't believe in this.
Very interesting. Yeah, the concept of the aura itself, the opening of different chakra systems and how the lights, emanate from you can see in a flower or a plant if you can read the aura, and your machine is picking up on that energy field. I guess the completion of the aura or the openings and where there's leakage probably of different energy. The concept of intention. In other words, once a person has the understanding of where there are leaks and where there are different breaks in the person's energy field, how does a person use the power of intent if they wanted to heal or to send energy or to let's say distance healing? How does that concept work in terms of working with another person as it relates to energy itself?
So first of all, we have special sensor which allows us to detect this intention. And we have many experiments. Just yesterday, it was very interesting session in Israel. It was a group of people. They collected in one center, and it was 3 different rooms. And in every room, it was a group of people who meditated for peace. Because you understand now it's a big, very bad situation in Gaza area, and we all pray for peace. And so they had 3 different instruments with sensors, and one more instrument I had here in Russia. So you understand, we turned this on 1 hour before this event, and then it was recorded all this time. And now we did first processing of data. It is absolutely clear effect. So no doubts effect of meditation, collective meditation, influenced the readings of a sensor. What does it mean? It means it influenced the environment. And after the session was over, reading was still done, we see still very high energy. So it means that during meditation, typically, usually, energy coming down. So it's like a balancing of space, it's coming of space. And then they did some other topic, they did some saying songs, they prayed, and then energy came up again. So it means that with our intention, with our focused mind, we can really influence the environment. What does it mean environment? It means other people. Right. It means life around ourselves. And it's physical process. It's not just imagination. It's not just only someone imagines something. No, it's a real physical process. And we can detect it, not only with our sensor, but with different instruments. Now we have many experiments of this kind. Many. We have review of published papers with hundreds of papers published on this topic in different laboratories. So it means that now, at this particular moment of 21st century, we are at a very interesting stage of our scientific development. Yeah. We need to totally change our paradigm. You know that, for example, in cosmic science, they have tremendous transformation, tremendous. They found new behavior of universe. They found dark matter, dark energy. Still, there are a lot of discussion about this, but it's clear that they need to change astrophysics. And inevitably, it would come to the change of physics. And inevitably, it comes to the change of our understanding of consciousness. Because still, we don't have the science of consciousness. We don't have it. We're only developing this. Next month, I'm coming to Arizona, to Tucson, where will be the biggest conference on consciousness. And there are hundreds of scientists coming together from different countries, and we'll be discussing both concepts and experiments. Let's try to understand what does it mean, consciousness.
Yeah.
And we're sure it's not just production of brain only. Yes, brain, of course, it's a key control point, but it's much more than that.
Yeah.
So consciousness, it's much more than just brain activity. It is activity of all of us as human system, as a collective human field.
Do you think in terms of the power of intention, the person receiving the intention has to be open to that intention in order for the intention to have a more of a full effect on the individual or on the group? If they block the energy or block the intention, I mean, people wouldn't know exactly if they're being prayed for or if somebody's thinking about them. And, well, they may, but in terms of the receptivity of intention, could a person block that intention? Could they deflect it? Could they keep the positive energy away?
You see, first of all, it's not necessary to be open to this intention. I can give a very funny example, very funny example. Once we did a big series of experiments with one very talented, strong healer, a spiritual healer in Russia, in our laboratory. And we always invited some people, different people. Not, of course, many, but some professors. And one guy, he came, he was physicist, very high style. He thought, no, I don't believe in this. It's all some tricks. It's all focus pocus. So it's all nonsense. And then the spiritual healer thought, okay, so do you want me to show you on yourself? Oh, yes, please show me something. But you're not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. And he put his hand about maybe half a meter from his body. And after 5 minutes, his skin was burned out. You understand?
Yeah,
So he has really big burn in his skin. And so, no, you see, I'm very sorry, but you asked this.
yeah, wow.
And he was, of course, very shocked, but it was big, it was absolutely clear. So it means that the power of intention doesn't depend on how people accept it or receive it. So it works by itself. Of course, different spiritual healers have different power, of course. Of course, it is possible to block it, yes, if you don't want, because intention may be not only positive, understand, maybe negative intentions as well.
Right.
They have maybe as powerful as positive intentions. So, but still, this is, I would say, this is power, this is force that really operate in our material world, and it depends totally on our consciousness.
You mentioned something earlier. I just wanted to touch upon it. You were talking about the light after we die, the energy field itself, and the measurements that are seen. I know through shamanism, in terms of the energy leaving through the top of the head, the crown chakra, and people can see the energy itself leaving. But in terms of understanding that concept, I believe when I watched an interview that you had, you explained there was a dip in the energy level and then an increase just before the person passed on. Maybe you could just touch upon that a little bit.
You know, it is a part of our experiments that we do now with our colleagues in Canada, in Montreal. So we were able to organize this process when we have one lady with medical assistant, and she works in hospice. She helps people to pass away. And she became very interested. She's a very talented person. And she was doing this type of measurements. And then we process data, we discuss it together. So idea is as follows. With our BioWell instrument, she is measuring person who is supposed to die. We understand that if it's natural process, then people are coming to their death for some time, maybe weeks, maybe days. And she is measuring this person every day. And every day she makes a record what's going on with the person. And what we've seen, we see it was several experiments of this kind. So it is some variation of energy of a person, up, down, for several days or maybe weeks, depending on the situation. Then at some moment, energy is coming down slowly, but it's coming down, less and less. And it correlates with physical condition of a person. So a person is more and more weak. But then at some moment, energies start coming up day by day. It usually takes, it happens 3-4 days before death. But we had several times when we were able to record this process of energy coming up. And the person become more active, more energetic, depending, of course, on the situation. It is very well known for doctors and medical assistants who work in hospices. I've seen it myself for several people. And then energy is coming up, and then people die, person dies. But after death, energy still keeps very high after death. So, and it always correlates with our previous experiments as well, and it correlates with all ideas that death is not just the end. Of course, when people go to walk on the street and they're hit by a car and die immediately, that's a different story, totally different story.
Right.
Yeah, but we talk about this normal death, that I would say expected death. Then we believe that it's process transformation. Then energy prepares to pass away. Soul, we can talk about soul, we can talk about information substance, and then it transformed to another state, another dimension. And then I have no doubts it exists in another dimension. For how long, for what time, we don't know. We don't know. Still, we just only collecting some data. But all those data, they talk about one is the same. You know, we have many scientific data about reincarnation.
Right.
Many scientific data about reincarnation memories. We have many data about people who was in the near this experience. So that is why it is all come together. And I believe that our experiments, our data would contribute to this understanding and would be part of all this process.
Yeah. Speaking of the NDEs, near-death experiences, I've interviewed many people who had encounters uh, with different alien beings or different angels or spiritual figures that they come across. The concept of what lies beyond this universe, so to speak. I myself have seen UFOs in the area and had specific light encounters. And I know you've researched the subject of the mummies of Nazca. Uh, and that subject to me is very interesting, and as it relates to what lies beyond our own universe. And maybe you can touch upon that.
Yes, you are absolutely right. It was very interesting process when we were able, and I was one of the first to witness it, very unusual mummies, very special mummies that was found in the caves in Peru. And somehow it happens due to my colleagues and friends in Gaia company from the United States, that we was the first to be able to study this and to touch it. So, you know the story. It was one local guy who was able to find it, and he contacted different people. And finally, he was able to find someone who was interested to do it. And it was two types of mummies. And one is human-like, about 100, about our size, but with 3 fingers and 3 toes, and very special construction of limbs, because later on it was possible to make X-ray, it was possible to make MRI, and that's why it was possible to see what's their construction.
Yeah.
Later on, it was we had experience with little creatures of this size. It was again very interesting. So they are not human-like at all, not at all, and they are totally different from any living beings that we know on our Earth. They similar a little bit to dinosaurs. That's maybe, I personally believe that it may be some descendants of dinosaurs, maybe, but who knows? Still, it's all ideas only. So, and again, we had, I myself, I had 6 of them in my hands. I was able to keep.
Wow.
So that's why for me, no doubt that it exists. Again, we did X-ray, we did MRI, we did DNA study. It was done in different laboratories. In Russia, we had big research on this topic. In the United States, in Mexico, in Peru. So no doubt that it's real. And no doubt that it's really something that we did not understand, that we did not encounter in our scientific research before. You know that classical scientists, they reject it.
Yeah.
They tell this is all nonsense, that it's all from paper, that it's all fake dolls. But you see, there are a lot of scientific data. DNA study was done in 4 laboratories worldwide, in different laboratories.
Wow.
It was shown that their age different from 2,000 years to 6,000 years. So it's understandable, it's ancient. We know that they belong to the time of Nazca civilization. And it's very well known civilization to scientists, but you see, they know some subject of this civilization, but they know about Nazca lines, about these geoglyphs that exist. And we have no idea why it was done.
Yeah.
Now we know it's not on the Nazca plateau, but in different parts of this territory. It's huge, huge geoglyphs, huge images on the mountains. Now they are found. Why? What for? If it's possible to see only from the air.
Yeah.
So that is why it is absolutely clear. We know some ideas, some data about this Nazca civilization. Yes, scientists know about this, but it is a lot of enigmas. And all those mummies, which belong to this civilization, belong to this time, those are one of more enigmas. You know that Jaime Maussan, he claimed that this is UFO, part of extraterrestrials.
Yes. Yes.
I like Jaime Maussan. He's a brilliant person, brilliant. I like him very much. But I don't like this idea. Because you see, for me as a scientist, I need to have proof. Show me some details of this, some parts of this extraterrestrial spaceship, then it would be, for me, convincing. But you see, I can believe that they may be a part of this civilization. Why not? They may be descendants of some other line of living beings. Not human, of course, but living beings. So that is why it's all questions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have a lot of data that we do know and understand, and we have a lot of questions that we don't understand. But it's good because this is science.
Yeah.
Science starts when we have questions and we don't have answers. Then it is science. Then before that, if then it may be technology, it may be fantasy, but it's not a science.
Okay. Interesting. The concept of I don't know if you're familiar with Russell Targ and his work with Third Eye spies in the Soviet Union. I've done a little remote viewing myself, having this interest of going down that rabbit hole of understanding what lies beyond, again, what we see. Uh, and the concept of remote viewing, many people have a misunderstanding, or they can't fathom the idea that we're able to see with the inner eye, remote viewing different coordinates, different places. Have you had any experience with that, or how can you explain that from your scientific
Yeah,
and
I've met people who was able to do it. Yes, and but you see again, as all this psyche ability, I believe this is a talent because we have talents. People may have talents in different areas.
yeah,
It is possible to teach boy, child to play piano. It's possible, any child. But some will become musicians, great musicians. Some will play at home. Some will do nothing. Yes,
that's true.
same in any part of human activity. You may have talent in one part. You may be a great painter, but you will be totally deaf. You see, or vice versa. So it means that spiritual healing, spiritual ability, those are talent. And I've met talented people who was able to see at the distance some topics, who was able to see distant events, to see to the future to some extent. But all attempts to make it practical, they all failed. So, it was big programs both in Soviet Union, in the United States, to try to make it as practical topic, but it all failed. We have big research together with our Institute of Human Brain, with academician Bechtereva, of children who was able to see without eyes. Some of them was blind, totally blind. Some of them had close shields on their eyes, and they were able to read books. They were able to communicate with other people. It's very good training, and this training is known in Russia. Still, there are some center that makes this training for blind people. So again, it's another ability, but we believe still that it's some ability of our energy field to communicate with the environment. But all attempts to use it for military, to seize some documents as a spy, it all failed. So I believe that there are some limitations still. So we can do something in this field, but I don't think that remote viewing may be something practical. And frankly speaking, for me, it's not very interesting line.
Okay.
I was able to see it, I was able to study it a little bit, but it's not interesting for me. For me, much more interesting to study effect of intention, of mental focusing, of spiritual healing, because this is practical. This is what people need.
So on the subject of intention, how do you suggest people go about with the power of intention? What are some of the things that you would tell somebody who's just learning to manifest or to create a better, more positive future for themselves?
First of all, I believe that meditation, training, is very good for everybody, because most of people in our civilization, they live in despair, they live with anxiety, with stress. They can't get rid of negative emotions, negative feelings. And of course, we have a lot of negativity in our world. It's understandable. So only when you have this meditation training, only when you believe that with your own intention, you can influence both around yourself and yourself, then you can totally transform your life. You can make your life powerful, full, and happy. That's important. So I believe that what spiritual teachers do, like many of them in different countries, when they teach people how to meditate, how to change yourself, how to change your attitude to the world, this is very, very important. You've mentioned that after NDE, people change their attitude to life.
Yeah.
They encounter some spirits, some of them, of course, not all of them. They encounter some other worlds, and then they change their attitude. They got absolutely new understanding of what life is, and they have understanding of power of life and meaning. That is why intention is a part of this training only. But if you believe in this, if you understand how powerful is it, then you can use it in your everyday life. And you can change yourself, first of all, and then you can influence other people around yourself. And you can make life around yourself more balanced, more clear, and of course, much more happy.
Yeah. You've done a lot of research on physical activity and sport, and I've been a phys ed teacher for 30 years and very interested in nutrition and physiology. Um, and I know its impact on longevity and its impact on mental health and physical health. Maybe you can just share a little bit of some of the work you did in that research area and its implications.
You know that in Russia, our Bible instrument is accepted by Ministry of Sport as one of the key instruments to study top-level athletes. Because for practically 20 plus years, we do research with Olympic champions, Olympic sports athletes, and Paralympic athletes. And this is one of the goals of our Institute of Sport. So, and now we use the notion of energy, because for sport, for athletes, for coaches, it's very well known. It's understandable. Because in sport, we always talk about energy. Without energy, you can't make most of types of sports. Even in the chess play, you need to have powerful energy. That is why, with our instruments, we can not only study this and tell coaches, tell athletes in which state they are, but we even can predict their competition efficiency. Just by measuring their energy day by day, we can make this prediction, and it's very understandable technology now.
Yeah.
It was shown by many research that it is correlated, of course, with genetic predisposition of athletes. It is correlated with their biochemical parameters, with different levels of biochemicals that they have. So it is one of the physiological parameters, but this parameter depends on their mental state tremendously.
Yeah.
So that is why we use both not only as physiological tool, but we use it as a tool for psychological parameters. So our psychologists, they work with Bible, and with the Bible, they can help people to improve their mental state. Because you understand, with high level sport, without appropriate mental training, it's impossible to do anything. You need to be able to transform to some specific state. Only then you will be successful. That is why we have very interesting results. We published data all the time, mostly in Russian, of course, but some in English. We have grants from our Ministry of Sport for many years. And now in Russian sport, it's a very well accepted approach. And I hope that at some moment it will penetrate more in the Western sport as well.
Yeah. If somebody were interested in the product, the BioWell product, where can they go for this?
You see, we have, I would say, distributors in more than 80 countries of the world. So you go to bio-well.com. This is our main website. You look to your own country, you find distributor in your own country, and then you can easily contact person, and with your own language, a person will help you to get Bible, to understand what does it mean to train. So, because we have more than 20 languages or something of this kind, I don't remember exactly how many. So our idea that we don't sell instruments from our company. We give it to our friends, to our distributors, who should make it in their own countries. And in some countries, we have several distributors. In some countries, we have less. But it's very easy. Contact, of course, people can contact info@bywell.com, and then we suggest to which person or which company they should address. So that's the system is very well developed.
Yeah, I'll put that in the description. Are there any seminars or local meetings that you're having upcoming for people?
Yes, of course. We have meetings in Germany. We have meetings in Malaysia. We have workshops and meetings in the United States. We have meetings in online, several meetings. So every month we do some training and meetings every month. And again, on our website, people can find information. But the most important, they need to contact local authorities, and then with them they can organize everything.
If you could leave the audience with maybe a little message on some of the things we discussed to summarize an important aspect of what you find important.
You see, for me, the most important message that we need to believe in ourselves. Most people, they don't believe in the power of their mind, in the power of their brain, in the power of their own energy. And that's why they are not established in their life. That's why they have anxiety, they have stress. Because, as I mentioned, we have a lot of negative process coming in the world, a lot. But still, we need to live. And we need to live full life and enjoy our life. So believe in the power of your mind, believe in the power of your intention. And then with this, you can really change not only yourself, but all the world around ourselves. And all together, we can influence a little bit on negativity of our world.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for joining me and sharing the bridging the gap between the science world and the spiritual world, and the power of our own innate qualities that we have within inside of ourselves. So thank you so much for joining me, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for